Good morning, everyone. How are you? Good? Tired? A little bit, maybe, yeah. We still have 30 seconds until takeoff. We are a little bit too late, so the US airline, well, took a little bit longer to bring you all here, so we have to wait some seconds. And I have to compete with Nico today. I will do my best. Hi, Nico. Hi. I'm fine, and you? Well, it's 10:20. Welcome on board. Thank you for flying with Wolfie Air today. I'm your captain. My name is Wolfgang, and we are flying destination Microsoft Purview Universe. There will be some entertainment, I hope, during the next 50 minutes, and there will be some Austrian sweets. So if you have any questions, I've got some helpers in the room. We've got a mic. Raise your hand, and maybe there will be some sweets, or the sweets will be distributed after the session. For today, I would like to fly together with you into or to do a round trip in the Microsoft Purview Universe. And it's not only one tool I would like to show you today, it's more like a suite of tools. And before I start, as I said, my name is Wolfgang, and I'm a data consultant. I'm living and working in Austria at a consultant company called ACP Cubido. And what we do, well, we collect data, integrate data, model data, and report data. So we are building analytic solutions. What I also do is I really enjoy being on stage, talking about stuff I'm interested in, doing some blogging and recording some videos, maybe sometimes about Purview. So today, it's the Microsoft Purview Universe we will have a look at. And before we start, usually during a flight, it's your time to turn off your mobile. Now, it would be really nice if you use your mobile and answer. There's just one question in the survey. What is Microsoft Purview? Can anyone confirm that the link works? Yeah? So I will give you some seconds. Just put in the things you think that Microsoft Purview is or what it means to you. Let's see, move over. We've got the data catalog, data governance. We've got the governance portal. We've got the data lineage. We've got enterprise data governance. There's security in there. There's data lineage in there. I have to wait a little bit. I'm getting like some turbulences during the flight. 32 answers. Still some answers coming in. Nothing yet. Scan, don't know. Tagging, cataloging, government, masking, insights. So it's a quite distributed topic area you put in. Let's see. I would like to show you the pieces of Microsoft Purview. I started, to be honest, in the data cataloging part of Microsoft Purview. That was one of the pieces where I actually got in contact with the whole universe. And I have to tell you a story. I think it was the end of 2022, Azure Purview was announced and released into public preview, which was a data catalog. maybe you've heard or maybe you've used Azure Data Catalog version 1. Is anyone in the room that has, well, tried Data Catalog version 1? How did you like it? Yeah, okay. Move on to the next topic. So Azure Purview was introduced at the end of 2022, and it was the data cataloging solution to get an overview about your data estate, to scan the sources, to classify all the pieces in your data estate. And about a year after, it was in April 2022, in the evening I got an email. Hey, Wolfgang, Azure Purview is now Microsoft Purview. And at that time, I thought, hey, okay, it's a renaming. That's it. Okay, we will call it Microsoft Purview, and that's it. No. It was a small, not a small, it was a change. Because Azure Purview was renamed into Microsoft Purview Data Governance / Data Catalog. And what was done in addition was there were two worlds of, let's say, data governance and compliance suites and services that Microsoft provided, and the big family of services coming from the M365 world: compliance, insider risk management, information protection, data loss prevention, communication compliance. All those pieces were put under the Microsoft Purview umbrella. So now we've got not only the data catalog that was named Purview, we had Microsoft Purview Information Protection, Microsoft Purview Data Loss Prevention. And the idea was and is to put data governance and security under one umbrella, because those two pieces, they need to be and need to work together in order to have your overall data governance, your overall security strategy, your overall compliance in your enterprise. So we've got those two worlds, like the data governance to know what's going on, where's my data stored, and on the other side, to secure your data, to put some labels on your information pieces to, well, block unallowed distribution of data outside of your organization. So those two worlds came together. And the M365 world was mainly focused on like SharePoint Online, email, and all the services that were in the Microsoft 365 universe. And I will guide you and try to guide you through that universe. So we've got three main pillars. Let's start with the data security. And all those services are called Microsoft Purview. So there's the initial service named added to the Microsoft Purview. We've got the data security. So there are services, and I will show you some of them, like the data loss prevention, the insider risk management, and the information protection services and techniques to classify your data and to apply some policies to prevent sharing to external users, to comply to certain rules. Then we've got the risk and compliance as the lower bar, where the overall data lifecycle management, the auditing, the communication compliance. So everything that has to do with your data across the data lifecycle, those are the services that are put in there. And in the middle, well, we've got the initial Azure Purview offering, the data governance. And I will show you the data catalog in a demo. You will see how the data map concept works. You will see how the data catalog looks and feels like. And there is an option to get more information about your data cataloging, about your data estate with the Data Estate Insights. Yeah, Microsoft Purview, as I said, it was not only a small naming change, it's more the introduction of a unified data governance and compliance story. At that time, let's see how the unified, if we have to write it in small letters or if we can write it in the same size as the data governance and security part. So let's see how those pieces come together. If you have a look at the documentation, all the different pieces I've shown you in a more graphical way some slides ago. They are there, and the idea is that they grow and come together, that they work together, that some pieces like the data catalog or other tools reuse some concepts introduced like sensitivity labeling. We will see that later in a demo. And there, let's move to that one. In the beginning, it was the documentation. And right after the introduction of Microsoft Purview, there were two separate portals. So we had the data cataloging portal, and we had the compliance.microsoft.com portal. Last year, I can't remember the exact date, Microsoft introduced a new portal. So if you go to your browser, enter purview.microsoft.com, what you see is the unified Purview portal. So let's head over here. And that one is still, as you can see here, it's a public preview. So yeah, I'm going to use that. And within that portal, Microsoft introduced the naming of solutions. So all those solutions that are listed here, those are the different services. I mentioned some of them. So if I open the View Solution area, what you see, the first one, it's the core. So we've got some core foundational services like an auditing. All of those M365 services, they do the auditing. Even if you use Microsoft Fabric, there's some auditing going on whenever there's a lakehouse created, an updated, deleted lakehouse, whatever, or a Power BI report is opened by a user. That one is put into the M365 audit. So that one is like one of those core services. And we've got settings, workflows, and the data map. I will come to the data map later on. And then we've got the groups of risk and compliance, the data governance parts, where the data catalog and some data policies are in there. And we've got the data security. So, for example, prevent the sharing to externals, privacy information, and the knowledge center. So that was the idea. Let's call it the idea, because it's not finished. When I talk about the data cataloging part, and I open the data catalog, I'm still, let's have a look at the URL, I'm still in purview.microsoft.com. If I head back over here, and for example, I want to have a look at the information protection, it takes some time, and I'm still redirected to the old portal, the M365 portal. So the purview.microsoft.com, as it's in public preview, it's still like more a start page with some links on it. So it's not the unified portal. I hope there will be some more integration, that all the settings and all the configuration can be done within the Purview portal. As of now, it's more like a starting point. But they are coming more and more closer together. So it's not only the name that was introduced, and it's more like getting the combination. Yeah. How can I tell you something about the different services that are provided by Microsoft Purview? Well, there is some sort of data lifecycle, data flow, and I want to, make 4 steps, and I would like to start with the idea of know your data. So what's going on, what's there in your data landscape, followed by protect your data. So what are some services that you can use to protect your data? Protect, and the next step is to prevent data loss. So it's not only to secure your database, to secure your SharePoint site, it's also to prevent the data loss, like those files, those emails sent to maybe intentionally, maybe unintentionally, you don't know, but there should be some system involved that blocks those things. And at the end, almost a return curve, it's to govern your data, to really have all the information, to define the responsibilities, to define the policies, and so on and so forth. So let's start with know your data. And I think everyone in this room, well, it's not only the impression, more and more data is generated. Every second, every week, every month, we get more and more data, more services added to the landscape, more servers added to the landscape, more maybe services in the cloud, software as a services. We get some new relationships and some interfaces. Data is like growing massively. And in the past, and not only in the past, all those services and systems, well, they built some sort of data islands, data silos. We had maybe one island that is the CRM data. We had one island that is the ERP data, and we've got the web shop over there, so the furthest island. And those islands are nice because they have some sort of data overview, but there are some relationships. There are some bridges between those islands. Some are obvious. Think of ERP system, CRM system, and we've got a data warehouse. So we get data from those source systems moved into the data warehouse. But other relationships and bridges are not that obvious. Maybe there's the automatic export and copy and import somewhere mechanism that a colleague implemented 10 years ago. It still works because that colleague is still my colleague, but it's not documented. So what is really needed to know your data? Well, to find some ways in that landscape and maybe build some sort of map to know what are my data islands, what are the bridges, maybe what are the flights between those, and what are the relationships between those data islands. And in addition, it's quite important to know what is stored at which data or in which data island. Is it customer data? Let's think of GDPR. Well, we have to know where all the customer data is stored. Whenever there's a request coming, hey, you need to delete my data. I know maybe in the CRM, ERP, we've got some customer data, but what else? So know your data and classify the data. And it's not only to collect the information. So if I have to look for a French book over there, I could start on the left top and maybe I find it. But if you really need that French book, maybe you need some ordering, maybe you need some index, that it's easier to find. And I'm not sure if I find the French book now. Well, let's say I was looking for a Spanish book because Spanish was easier to spot. So if you classify your data, if you put an index, if you put some sort of mechanism to really categorize and classify your data, it's easier to find the information you are required to find. So what is needed to build some information about your data? Well, it's the metadata. Let's stick to a database. We've got a database, we've got schemas, we've got tables, we've got columns. Within those columns, maybe we've an email address, maybe we've stored some credit card information. So the metadata is the description of the structure itself, including or in addition, maybe add some classification, like the information in that column EM, there's an email address in there. So that is also metadata about your data itself. Maybe you need to classify your data concerning sensitivity. It's highly confidential. That data is not allowed to leave your company. So that is also metadata, which you can use and apply. Responsibilities. It's one of those very, very important things in the data governance area. Who's responsible for that table, that system, that piece of data, that data context? Responsibility. Is it technical responsibility or is it the data responsibility? And some additional properties. So many of those information pieces are put together to better know your data. It's not only that there's a SQL server somewhere, including some databases. If you know more about your data, it's easier to work and as I said, if you've got an index, it's easier to find the relevant data. Classification. There are different ways how to classify data. And when I think of a database and classification, well, there is classification already available within SQL Server and within Azure SQL Database. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So in Management Studio, you can just open the context menu, classify data, and set some information like information type and sensitivity label. So there's two of those pieces I talked about the previous slide. What is the information piece I'm going to talk about? Is it a name? Is it a contact info? Whatever. And what is the sensitivity label? And it's again Windows Hello. Nope. And there's a similar concept in Azure SQL Database where you can add your classification in there. And as you can see, it looks quite similar to the SQL stuff. And it would be too easy if Microsoft Purview just takes that classification out of SQL Server and uses that one. Nope. There is another concept, an OM concept, for creating the sensitivity labels and some classification in there. So if I head over to the compliance portal, and we've got the data classification over here. So what you see here, it's the classifiers list. Nope, nope, nope. And yeah, here we are. That one, or that list, contains 300 something items. And that is the predefined list coming from Microsoft. So we've got different sensitivity information types, like let's search for Austria. If there's something in for Austria, yeah. We've got some sensitivity information types, like that information piece, I'm going to tag with that information type. It's a passport number, an Austrian passport number. It's a credit card number. It's a person's name. It's whatever is in that list. So that is the idea and the concept of getting classifications within the Microsoft Purview Universe. That is one of those fundamental pieces, the sensitive information info types. And what you can do is you can tag your information, your documents in your SharePoint Online, but you can also use some automatic tagging based on some rules that are in there. And there is an overview in there, as you can see, how's the distribution of the different sensitive information types over here. So I've got full names in there. I don't know why there is a New Zealand Ministry of Health number in there. I have to look that one up, but the different information types allow you to easier find your documents, to have the information assigned to those documents, and as a next step, what I will show you is to apply some policies based on those information types and also the sensitivity labels that are coming up next. What you also need to do in order to better know your data, it's not only what data is stored, but also what's happening in your environment. And that is the part of Microsoft Purview, the audit log, where we can have a look at. And that one is over here. And if you open that one, most of the services are pushing their log information into the database in the background. And what you can do is, using that portal, you can start a search for specific events. And what I really like is, I'm a BI developer, now I'm a Fabric developer, and there are some Fabric events in there. So as I said, there are different events sent from Fabric into the audit log. And if I search for Fabric, well, I've got the event of view the Power BI dashboard, view the Power BI report. But if I scroll down, I'm coming to other artifacts than Power BI. There should be some lakehouse. Let's search for lakehouse. Yeah. So there are different events where we can search for, like, is there or was there an event for creating a report based on a lakehouse? Was there an event or who created a lakehouse? So I can do some research based on the information that is in there. What you can also do, that's the user interface. You can export that information, and as I look in the first row, Just has implemented a solution, and there are other solutions out there to extract that information, because there's a retention period defined in the built-in thing. So if you want to have a closer look, like over the last year of your audit log, you need to export the data, store it somewhere, prepare it somewhere. And there are reports and solutions for tracking the Power BI usage and so on and so forth. So you can use that information. And it's not only Fabric Power BI that comes into that, it's also the SharePoint events, the email events, and so on. So it's really also a very important part to know your data estate. Not only what's stored, but also what's happening in there. And SQL again. There's auditing in SQL. So we can turn on SQL auditing. Same idea, different concept, different solution. But the idea is the same, tracking those events, what's going on in your environment, and having a look who created or who maybe deleted some information in your database. What you can also do is you can search within your information, your company information. You can use the Microsoft Purview, the search, the content search, and let's head over there. And what you can do is, with that search, you can search for sensitive information types, you can search for some document names, some documents that have been changed by a user. So that is a way to know, maybe for you as an administrator, I have to look, maybe have a deeper look, because some keywords, well, we have to have a closer look. And that is the way where you can use the content search to do that one. And as I said, there are different ways to know your data estate, to get to know your data estate. And next step is how to protect my data. So it's not only to know where it's stored, and data protection can be applied in different ways. So we can protect our data by applying encryption. So we can encrypt our databases, we can encrypt our documents, but we can also set some restrictions on the permissions. Secure a SharePoint library, secure a Fabric workspace, secure a database schema. So that is another thing where we can define. And it's not only the object level security, we can also, when talking about a database or a Power BI dataset, we can secure row by row. Who's allowed to see which data? Maybe your cost center data, it's the only data you are allowed to see, not the overall financial figures of your company. There's another way how data protection, well, it's similar like data masking. Data masking is no real data protection. It's masking the data, but the credit card number, the telephone number itself, it's stored in clear text in your database. It's only the user that sees the masked data. Same with visual markings. So highly confidential. Well, it's nice, but I can read the document. So we need some more protection that is applied that prevents us to open or to share some information to the outside, to people that are not allowed to really use it. So how to do? Well, first we have to start with the labels. And sensitivity labels in Microsoft Purview are a way to define your levels of data sensitivity. In my demo environment, I've got 4 different levels. It's sensitive data, personal, secret, and highly confidential data. And those are the levels. What you can do is you can create that structure as you want. You can create sub-levels of those labels, like it's highly confidential, and then you've got a sub-label like FTE only, or whatever you want. And that is the starting point. So defining the levels of your sensitivity requirements. And we've got some priority over here. And the next thing is we need to define a scope. And the scope here is what are the document types, what are the asset types that label can be applied. And in my example, it's that labels can be applied on files, on emails, on schematized data assets. And what now makes it better or some sort into the direction of the unified data governance, they can also be applied on Power BI assets, on Fabric assets. So we can reuse that information, like mark a data lake in Microsoft Fabric as sensitive. And it's only defined on one place in the M365 in the Microsoft Purview portal. So that is the starting point. Define the labels. There are no rules set now. So it's just the labels that are defined. The next step is to define some policies. So, yeah. With the sensitivity label policies, what you do is you define the group of people that are forced for that policy. So what are the people that are really, well, under that policy? So we've got the users. In my case, it's all users and groups. So I don't distinguish between like department leads or financial department groups and so on. And then you can define some policy settings. And in my case, that one, oh my God, sorry. It's that with that policy, all users are required to set the sensitivity label for Power BI and Fabric items. And that policy, you can define other policies, like set a label for email and documents. And whenever I head over to Fabric and I create a new lakehouse, well, I have to add a new a sensitivity label. And I'm here. Let's add one. So before I added one, I will show you the more interesting stuff over here. The sensitivity labels. Here we are. That one is the icon that there is a sensitivity label applied. And what is really nice, it's the same sensitivity labels as I had in my portal. And what is also nice, think about the relationships between a lakehouse. We've got some notebooks transforming data, storing data in another lakehouse, creating a data set or semantic model report in Microsoft Fabric. And what is really nice and easy to use, if I change the sensitivity label over here, well, all the dependent artifacts get the same sensitivity label applied. So it's inherited. So that is one of those examples where you can just easily reuse the sensitivity labels. And in addition, it's not only applied to the existing ones. Whenever you create a new notebook based on a lakehouse, it inherits the sensitivity label of that lakehouse itself. Yesterday during my session, I had a question, are we able to set the sensitivity labels per column or per table? Not now. So it's at the lakehouse level for now. Another way, yeah, there's a question. We've got a mic, just over here.
So now that we are in a public environment, and I think easy to do these regulations, like you do something in Purview, and then it is automatically connected to Power BI, and then you can see that rule in Power BI that you classified the data somehow. But my question is, as a BI developer myself, I'm curious how it happens on technical level with some outsider tools. Like, let's say I have some data in some data warehouse and not in Fabric, like some outside data warehouse.
Yeah.
And I want to take this data into the Purview to define some regulations or data governance stuff. And do I have to enter this data manually? So it
Nope.
can be connected.
It can be connected, and there's a demo for that. So that's the data cataloging part, where you just connect to the external data warehouse. It does a scan, it classifies your data, and it's automatically put in there. So I would show you in like 5 minutes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I have to, as I got the, is it really 15 minutes? Oh my God. 15 minutes warning. Yeah. I will come to the question later on. So there was one over there. Another way of securing the data, well, yeah, data masking, I've already mentioned that. Row level security, object level security. Row level security, secure per row. Am I allowed to read that data or to view that data or even to modify that data? Or the object level security, it's based on the tables, on the columns. Am I allowed to read and get that data? Now, as we talked about the protect your data, well, prevent data loss. We've classified, we applied sensitivity labels and some policies like, okay, I need to add a sensitivity label on every email I create and send, on every document. But now it's about, where's my data going to? And have you seen that Excel file? Have you opened that one? Maybe you could delete that email. It's not the base data security approach. There is something built in Microsoft Purview, and that one falls under the data loss prevention. And the data loss prevention uses sensitivity labels and, again, policies that are applied. And those policies, well, there is some sort of actions taken. Whenever sensitivity label highly confidential FTE only is applied, we, as the members of our company, are allowed to open that Excel file or even that Power BI report, and we are allowed to export the data. We are allowed to share that report within our company. But that policy protects the data distribution. Within that policy, it's marked only people, only Azure Active Directory groups falling into the FTE group are allowed to open that Excel file. And maybe you got some email in the past, and there was an Excel file as attachment. You opened that one, and then you got that yellow bar on top where it said, hey, you can't open that document because it's protected by data loss prevention. And that one also applies when you export data from a Power BI report that has those sensitivity labels applied. So that is the data loss prevention, also based on the sensitivity labels over there. Data lifecycle management, well, we have to deal with more and more data. And wouldn't it be nice if there is some process, some service, well, there is one, that allows us to delete, to archive documents after a certain amount of time, like 7 years, 10 years. We are required to store financial information for 10 years, but then we can delete that one. Same can be applied, for example, to documents on a SharePoint, where we can apply some rule, as you can see here. 7 years when items were last modified. So if there's a modification for that file, another 7-year period is added to that one. We can also choose the creation timestamp for that. Prevent reputation loss. It's also a thing. It's not only prevent data loss. And there's a concept and a service within Microsoft Purview. I haven't tested that one. We haven't enabled that one in our company tenant. It's communication compliance. And that one is a thing. It's not only to lose data, it's also to lose reputation or prevent some harassment within Teams messages, within emails. So there's a service that gets triggered if there is some message in your communication that contains, for example, target harassment, threat, discrimination. So another thing, it's not only the data that is relevant, it's also the communication, it's also the everything you do within your company. And fasten your seatbelts because we are heading down. It's like those last 10 minutes we are heading down. It's to govern your data. And now it's time for the initial Azure Purview, the data cataloging part. And the data governance discussion, well, there are many, many definitions, too many definitions. And it's not easy to maybe get one clear definition. I would say treat your data better, and then you are on a good way for data governance. No, just kidding. It's about the processes, the responsibilities, the policies, and the tools that help you across your data lifecycle. So I will skip over that. So treat your data better. Somebody uses that hashtag whenever it's about data governance. It's about the data lifecycle from the creation until the end, the archiving of your data entry. And it's about the people, responsibilities. It's about the roles, the data steward, the people that have to deal with data quality and so on. It's about the processes, how to deal with data regulations whenever we talk about the policies. And there are tools that should support you. And there is one tool I would like to show you. It's the Data Catalogue, the Azure Purview Data Catalogue. And what you need, very, very important, you need the support at the top end from your management. If you want to get into data governance, you need to think about the vision, the strategy, and you need the support on top because data governance needs resources. It's not coming for free. And it's not a project, it's a process. And Microsoft Purview, the data cataloging part, it's quite easy. We've got sources, and as there was the question, like a few minutes before, we've got sources, like an external data warehouse, and we define a scan. And that scan defines what parts of the database, for example, should be scanned, and what are the classifications Purview should have a look for, like email, full names, customer names. I can apply my custom classifications in there. And what it does, it connects all those pieces together to a data map. The data map is a graph. So we've got nodes and we've got relationships, edges between. And those are the relationships between the table, columns, to the schema, to the database, but also classifications applied to those pieces. And then we've got the data catalog on top, which allows us to search all the information collected. And we've got some data insights, some reports on that data cataloging part. We've got some APIs because Microsoft didn't reinvent the wheel. Purview is based on Apache Atlas, and you can use those APIs. And there is data sharing and some integration with like Synapse Analytics, like Data Factory, and data policies. So we can define data policies like who's allowed to access the database and publish that to a SQL server on the end. And now, time for a demo. And that part of the Purview universe, it's really integrated in the new portal. So if I start with my data map, and that's the network, the graph that stores all the data. initial point, it's the data sources. So we define and register a new data source. It's not only Azure, it's also AWS, it's on-premises data sources too, it's SAP, it's Oracle, whatever. And it's also Microsoft Fabric, what we can search and scan into that one. What we can do is we can define as a next step the scans. And scans are based on scan rule sets. As I said, what are the parts of the database I would like to search and classify? And also for the classifications. There are 200 something classifications in there. It's not those 313 sensitive information types. There is some overlap, but not the full overlap. So it's like getting close, but not as close. So we've got the Austrian identity number, for example. And within the scan rule set, I define what are the rules Purview should have a look at. And that's the only part of the data flow in Purview where Purview really has a look at the real data. Everything else, it's metadata. It's the schema, it's the classifications, and the classification result is the thing that is stored in the database. No data, no real production data is coming into Purview. And next, it's the data catalog. And within the data catalog, I can have a look at my sources, so I can browse by source, but a catalog can help us to search, for example, for customer data. And I know my customer data, the contact that is responsible, it's my colleague Bernhard. And I know it's stored in a database. And if I filter that down, the list gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and I get only one data asset, a central customers list, which is an Azure SQL table. And you see, there is everything connected. So we've got those links. That's the graph. We've got the nodes, we've got the edges, and we've got some more information like the glossary terms over here. Classifications are the technical side. That column contains an email address. Business glossary, it's we define a customer in our company as blah, 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 blah. And we can define those glossary items over there. Next, we've got the schema, and we've got the classifications over here. And we can also use that classification to limit down the filter results when I search the data catalog. So schema is over here. We can apply and even modify that classifications. The auto classification is nice, but we can tune that to get better results. And what I really want to show you at the end, it's the lineage information. So all the pieces that Purview scans, like a SQL database, a data lake storage, Power BI at the end, all those pieces are put together and we get the lineage graph. So we've got that database table in here. We've got some sources, some source transformations, like data in a data lake. We've got some copy activities over there. And what is really nice, for some of those transformations, I've got column level lineage. So that is really nice to track down the customer number, which was initially the CRM ID in a database somewhere. And that was the really fast thing through the data cataloging part, one of the pieces of the Microsoft Purview Universe. And the pieces are coming together. Because if we have some sensitivity labels applied in Fabric, for example, Purview reads those, and you can have a look and use them as a filter in your data catalog. So you don't have to apply them manually over there. And with that, we are almost done. Fasten your seatbelts. We almost reached our destination of the Microsoft Purview Universe. To sum it up, the Microsoft Purview Universe, it's not only about data cataloging. It's not only about data governance, defining responsibilities. It's also about the security, the compliance, up to the communication compliance support in there. And what I see and what I really hope that it gets much, much more deeper integrated is using the same kind of classification, the same type of information types. As we've seen, 300 there. Purview has 200. There is other classification going on in Azure SQL. So if those pieces are really reused and put together, I think the Microsoft Purview Universe not only helps the M365 world, but also helps us as data people to get better secured data. And we are almost at touchdown. And with that, thanks for your attention. Thanks for staying until the end, because we were like flying high. And appreciate your feedback if you liked it. If you don't like it, please put some sentences in there that I can do it better. Are there any questions? There was one over there.
Hi. So if I've got a sensitivity label against a Power BI model, as an example,
Yeah.
and somebody connects to it with Excel, as an example,
Yeah.
I assume the sensitivity label inherits into there.
Yeah.
And then if there is more than one model being connected to, it simply picks the highest priority one, and that's the label that gets applied?
Almost 100% sure, yes, that it takes the most sensitive one. Yeah. But if you connect to your data model using the Power BI service or Excel, that one is inherited because you're using your AD user, your identity, and that one is like connected to some Active Directory groups, which are maybe affected by the policy.
Mm-hmm. And then just a second quick one, if I may. In the auditing that we saw, is there any kind of anomaly detection in there? So if a particular user's behavior suddenly changes and they start connecting to a lot of stuff that they wouldn't normally, is there any easy way of finding that?
To be honest, I'm not aware. I could imagine that there is something somewhere in there, but I can have a look and maybe add a slide if I find something about that. So can't answer that one. Let's take one additional question and then we are done. Yeah.
Thank you. Hi. So it looks really powerful. We've talked a lot through accessing data through SQL endpoints to find data. We have a lot of in data lake and ADLS with Parquet, Delta, non-SQL formats. Does this cover, does Purview, all the features we've talked about here, cover those?
What it does, it searches for files within SharePoint, and I'm not aware if it's already working on the data lake. So Purview itself, the data catalog, yes, you can scan, but that one applies the Purview classifications and not the sensitivity labels. So somehow, yes, and I hope there will be a better integration over there. Thank you, everyone. And before you leave, I've got 4 packs. I'm gonna just put them over there. If you open them, there are 10 in there. So there were like somebody left. We've got one here, over there, and I think.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.